Hey, it's Ryan, along with most of the Roadshow crew today. Dan's in Seattle. Alan's in the UK. Unfortunately, Lindsay's out sick. She and her daughter, I guess, are sick, so feel better, Lindsay. But Alan, I'm surprised you're doing as well as you are because you just got back from what I trust was a hell of a weekend down in Monaco. I'm just in my garage in Colorado. We've got lots to talk about. So welcome to the Roadshow. I think it was a weekend filled with car stuff for all of us. I want to ask who wants to start, but I think, Alan, you need to go after me because I can't top what you did this last week, and you really kind of had the ultimate car weekend. I got up way too early on Saturday to join my pal Matthew in his vintage British racing green Volvo 1800. Do you guys know what this car is? It's a really pretty car. Like, if you looked at it, you would never think this was a Volvo. You know, it looks like, I don't know, almost like an old Ferrari or something if you squint. But we joined a bunch of other young folk in assorted vintage sports cars, outfitted with period skis and ski racks for a drive up to the Arapahoe Basin ski area, which is, I don't know, if you're not in an old car, it's about an hour out of town. In an old car, it takes a little longer. But we had a lot of fun. My buddy James, who organizes the thing, he opened a bottle of champagne with a wooden ski. It's all very stylish. It's also almost June, and you can still ski in Colorado, which is crazy. So there was that. That was a hell of a lot of fun. And then Sunday, I got up really early again to do a photo shoot with Shift Colorado magazine here in town. My friend Ryan Evans, Brews Beers, former steering committee sponsor. He has, among other cars, a collection of minis. He has all four of the John Cooper Works GP cars. So there's like a 2006 that was a supercharged car. He's got the turbo, I guess 2012, and then 2020 there was the big 300 horsepower beast. And then he's got the last of the old classic Mini Coopers, the 2000 car that was bought from the John Cooper. Do you say dealership in the UK?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. From the John Cooper dealership, which I think is no more, but he's got the cool. And of course, all these cars have like 4,000 miles on it. So it's like pulling some cars out of the Peterson collection or something to drive. And I was asked to be one of the drivers. We had a lot of fun. Those cars, to get to drive them back to back to back like that is pretty neat. I think Minis sort of lost their way in recent years. But these were fun cars, It kind of reminds me of what a Mini should be. Pretty wonderful car. So that's
it's a piece of history, the Mini. Like,
you
always think, I'd really love an old car to drive, and then you're driving to work and you see a new Mini, which is bigger than you think, and then you see an old Mini behind it, which looks like you could put it inside a new Mini, and you think, it's still kind of cool until it gets to an intersection, and then it's like a misty morning, and the guy driving the old Mini winds his window down, puts his hand outside of the cloth and wipes the outside of the window because the wiper doesn't work. And you go, technology is a good friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll go with modern all the time. So.
Yeah, we hear a lot of grief for, cars having wheels that are too big anymore, 18, 19, 20, 21 inch wheels. What are those? 10-inch wheels, 12-inch wheels, just tiny, tiny little things. And I think there's something to be said about, improvements there too. I don't fit in the classic Mini. I've driven the thing. It's a right-hand drive, manual, but I have to turn my head like this. It's just very awkward. Dan, have you ever driven a classic Mini?
I've not. I did a road trip down to Newquay in the UK. A buddy of mine had one that actually was a former McLaren employee's car.
Really?
So it wasn't a stock car by any stretch of the imagination. Fiberglass body, very sorted in terms of suspension. But I was the co-driver, and it was a lot of fun. But you literally need to go see a chiropractor after you've driven one because it's just all sorts of shapes getting in and out of the thing. I was really curious, Ryan. Did you get to drive the other three? And if you did you have a favorite?
Yeah, I have in the past, not this weekend. This weekend, I really just drove the supercharged one. But I picked that one because that was my favorite. Obviously, the 2020 300-plus horsepower is a great car, but it's not a manual. The turbo car seems a little more generic. The supercharged car really has a unique feel to it. There aren't a lot of supercharged cars, right? One of the things that struck me is that the clutch and the shifter are so light, right? They're easy cars to drive. They're almost Honda-like, right? In their touch points and all that kind of thing. But something about a supercharger, especially here at altitude, where you've got power down low, and I think it's only about 170 horsepower, that one. But it's got a whine. It's just, that's the one I would take. And it was
Yeah,
like brand new too, so
how
that
much
helped.
does it weigh as well? It doesn't
You
weigh
know,
a
I
whole
don't. I
lot.
bet
So
they're probably 2,500 pounds, right? Those
yeah,
early minis. I'd be surprised if they were much more than that. And obviously at altitude, you have this atmospheric power loss, right? And so
of
my
course.
GT4 back here on paper has more than twice the power, but you've really got to rev it when you get up at altitude. You really feel it, and those forced induction cars really, kind of keep their power. Well, you know better than any of us how that works. I don't know how it
Yeah.
works, but it works, and you definitely notice it. So
I will say that I don't have any problem getting into a Mini or any other car, and now I know who to ask to get something off the top shelf for me at the supermarket. So I'll be calling you around. This is actually a half-back chair in your place,
that's
isn't it?
right.
This is how small I am. So
That's
I'm
right.
compact Alan. So
Well, and I'm wondering if you couldn't drop the seat, right? Like I know on the Lotus Elise, you can actually get a kit to drop the seat in another inch or something. Maybe that's what I would do. Honestly, though, I don't know if that's something I'd want to drive daily in modern traffic. I mean, I love the idea of it. Maybe you can get away with it in London. I don't. A lot of big trucks here in Colorado driving around. I don't know if that's what I want to be in day to day, but
yeah, you'd be tiny. Yeah,
I like that it
compared to the
exists, right? And I like that Ryan
yeah.
has all four, and he has this wonderful collection. He's got some other funky stuff. He's got a 2CV and some other stuff, but he's a mini guy, and that's where his heart is.
I have a friend at Pankel in Austria, and he rallies one on some of the very classic rallies in Europe, and he's quite tall as well. So I'll
Yeah.
ask him. He must have done a mod on it, but he said it's an amazing car to drive on rallies.
Well, didn't it
It's
won it won Monte
won
Carlo,
everything.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it
exactly.
was amazing.
Paddy Hopkirk used to be driving them,
Paddy.
and yeah, a legend.
And they don't have a ton of power. I mean, this 2000 is an S or whatever. It's the Super, whatever it is. It's the one with all the power, and it takes a lot. But speaking of Monte Carlo, let's talk about your weekend, Alan, because you did what many of us listening dream about doing. You went down to the Monaco Grand Prix. You took your family, made a weekend of it. Like, what's that like? Like, it's such a
It's
scene.
it, it's surreal. And so I went last year, but I only did race day, and I did because Cannes Film Festival's on at the same time.
Oh, there's that.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, that small event, it's pretty glitzy, and we last year we sort of went and had a evening meal in Cannes, but this year it's like so the day before is my birthday, and I took the
Yes.
family
Happy
and
belated birthday.
thank you very much,
Yeah.
and yeah, won't talk about age, and my daughter's partner is connected with the chap who got us some hospitality in what was, I think, Old Tobacco Corner. And so you're sitting on the outside just before they go into the swimming pool portion of it for those that can sort of visualize where it is. So you're sitting on the outside of a corner, and on the other side you just have super yachts as far as you can see. And behind you is the hill going up and all the tower blocks, apartments, and it was just every boat was a disco, and it was a party, and there's beautiful people, and there's everyone's just wearing you know sexy watches, and obviously the Sheffield got its first tour into Monaco, and
I saw
it,
the
it wa-
repost. Yeah.
yeah, thanks. It was just amazing, and that was on
Yeah.
Saturday night because obviously the track is on the streets, so the streets open up as service roads because they need to, take things out, bring things in, and everyone's it's literally just a big party. And then the next morning it's all shut off again, and you go in, you get to the grandstand, it's very locked down in where you can go. You get to your place, you don't see a whole lot from the grandstand, pretty much like most tracks, but it's you literally your head can't keep up with the pace they're going past, and so you're watching a big monitor TV Tron at the end of the straight, yeah, and then the race is over, and then it's another big party again, and it was yeah, I paid the price yesterday morning, so I woke up and yeah, felt very secondhand for all day. So,
Well,
but
I
two,
got a
two,
great
couple of
weekend.
questions on. So the first lap of the race, Perez gets taken out, right? I think the TV, or at least the coverage I watched, they missed it. So the first
Yeah.
sign was yellow flags on the track. Did you guys see it live in terms of on the screen? Obviously, it wasn't the corner where you were, or was it a similar situation?
No, in fact, we saw the other altercation. I think, well, was it Lando that went? He no, sorry.
Fine.
Carlos ran off, and then we saw the red flag, and we thought, well, that's a little bit extreme for for that moment. And then you saw the replay, and then you saw regular replays of slicing it up, and you look at Perez's crash, and it was going up the hill to Casino, and it was the contact was at the bottom of the hill, but he literally skidded the whole way up and over and sort of on his way down. And so that's the speed they're going so quickly going up that hill. And yeah, he just rotated and destroyed the car on the way up.
Yeah. Wow. And Sainz was the lucky boy in that because he got to restart, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, got a few places, but unfortunately, as you know, in Monaco, there is overtaking is really hard, and the streets are narrow, and everything's very tight. So therefore, as soon as they did a pit stop, everyone changed tires, and there was no opportunity for anyone to sort of out strategize anyone, and it was a bit processional, but still impressive to watch at the same time. There were good cars, they were all good drivers, everyone earned their place. Even as someone highlighted to me this morning, Logan Sargent played it smart. He had changed his tires because he had to, but he got on the back of was it Lando, and just basically followed him for the whole race. So fair play to a person who gets a hard rap in Formula One. All those drivers are really fast, and the cars are incredibly fast. And he's had a few incidences, but I think to not crash there is saying you're a certain level of racing driver, and he did really well. So we're probably
Nice.
going to lose him at the end of the year, I think, for maybe not being the US superstar that the promoters want. But I think he did. I think he redeemed himself in that one.
Yeah. I've actually driven the track in a replica Porsche Spider.
Really?
No way.
Dan,
So
you surprise
yeah,
me every day. That's
this was like 11 or 12 years ago, and I
Did
was
the
in
police ever
Monaco.
catch you afterwards? Or
No, so I won't be going back to Monaco anytime soon. But yeah, I was an award thing I won at Microsoft, and we got a long weekend in Monaco as a thank you, and you got to choose activities, and I could have gone sailing or could have gone to a spa, and I got to drive this classic Porsche around the circuit and then up into the hills.
right. I did know about this. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so much fun. So much, and
That's
what a location! That place is just special.
what
yeah.
was your lap time?
We
No.
don't talk about lap times. It's all
Yeah.
about being seen, not driving quick. That's what I keep telling myself.
Exactly. Fulfilling dreams. Yeah. And
Yeah,
again, that's what we're talking about. Like 2 weeks before is the historic Monaco, and you obviously I say you just have to buy a car and you can get in, but it's not a cheap cost of entry. But you think again, you go, well, if I just bank loan an old some money and buy an old F1 car and go do it and then sell it after. Live a dream. Say you've raced
Right?
Monaco. It's crazy. I won't be doing it because I'll get shot. But
So,
yeah,
Ellen, set the scene for those of us who haven't been. Like, where do you stay? Like, how do you know what to do? How do you make those connections? And also, like, major dad points for taking the whole family, by the way. I mean, coolest dad thing ever.
yeah, it was one of those things. Like I say, it's because it was my birthday, and it's kind of always held, a special place for us for many reasons, Monaco. And so I thought, you know what, let's take the kids. Let's make that memorable event so that later in life, when either I'm old or gone, that'll be something they remember. So
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely came with a price tag, but well worth it. And we didn't really know how it all worked, and so we just did the travel agent thing. But we stayed in Cannes, which is I think probably too far away, and then there's obviously Nice closer, and then there's Monaco, and so we've already started shopping for to rent an apartment closer, so you can just Uber in and out or hire a car. And
Nice.
we tried to use the train system there, and it's not built for taking that many people in and out. It really isn't. So they don't improve it; they just stop it, and you go, okay, train's cancelled. Next train, next train's cancelled. You're like, we're just going to Uber. Let's just get home. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Monaco protect their own, so you can get it. We learned you can get a taxi in, an Uber in, but you can't get an Uber out. So you have to walk up the hill to the Esso fuel station. Like if you've seen a lot of videos of car drives in Monaco, they go up the hill to an Esso service station, turn around, and then go back down. That's essentially on the border where the road lines go from, is it white to yellow? That's when you enter France, and that's where
Huh.
you can pick up an Uber. So
Is that sort of the slums of Monaco up there? Is that like
the slopes
other
of
side of
Monaco,
the
what's that?
tracks? No,
Oh,
I'm
right,
just,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is there like the slums of Beverly Hills or
Oh,
something or
slums,
anything?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's so I've been whining about like the hotel prices for Car Week this year. I can only
Uh,
imagine like what you get nicked
ten
for something
thousand for
like
a
this.
weekend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
10,000 euros or 10,000 pounds, $10,000. It's a lot. So,
yeah.
but
It,
there was a lot of money there, a lot of cars. It was
well,
gridlock of supercars.
yeah, I
So
saw that online. It was like, I think the shittiest thing there was like a Porsche. Right? Like, I
yeah,
mean, it was Bugattis, it was Paganis, it was, it was Koenigsegg's, and I mean, it was just incredible. Like it almost looked like a CGI thing.
yeah, it was unbelievable. It's just a sea of everything you dream of in life in every
Yeah.
respect. So yeah, it's a beautiful place. Weather was amazing. Uh,
What
yeah.
What do you wear?
Well, this year I was sporting Zara,
Okay,
which was a birthday present. So.
nice.
Um, Anything goes. Honestly,
Okay,
if you look at some of the photos, there are some people that, yeah, were probably wearing more than my house is worth. So,
yeah, yeah. They got it
and you got
pretty
people
locked
in jeans and
down.
tees.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. No one's gonna. It's not like L.A. where someone's gonna swipe your watch at a meal or
there's
something. I
zero
mean, it's
crime in Monaco.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
it's security cameras everywhere, police everywhere. Yeah, you'll be in serious trouble
I,
if you tried anything on. So.
I guess you can do that with infinite amounts of money and a closed
Exactly.
country and well,
Definitely
it's what.
recommend it. Try and plan it.
Yeah,
At some point. Now I've got some pointers. I know where to go, where to stay. We can do something if you want.
it'd be fantastic. I mean, it's just one of those bucket list things, obviously, and but it also seems overwhelming, right? In a way that even some other car things aren't, right? Like it's just like where do you start? How do you slice that thing up? I mean, what did you do? Like, where did you eat? Did you go on any yachts? And if so, how
So,
did that happen? Like,
so we didn't go on any yachts because again, I don't have the connections to do that. But there was plenty of restaurants around, and it
yeah,
was everything is nice. You can go anywhere
yeah,
once you're in there.
okay,
There's a lot of places that are open, and the parties are just everywhere. Everything is a party, and you never want it to end. It's if Willy Wonka did motorsports, it's just magic. So
I'm curious. So that is one of the three members of the Triple Crown, right? So obviously the same weekend was Indy, where
yeah,
the weather wasn't fantastic at the start. Have you got aspirations to do either Indy or Le Mans?
so I've done Le Mans several times. I say done, watched, and supported with teams. That was a good while ago. The last time I went, it was very open, and you could go in and out of pits. It was fantastic. And then it started to become more lockdown like Formula One. So kind of gave it a miss and had children and career and all those things. Indy is always on the list. So it's something, in fact, listening to Smoke and Tire just recently, they were supposed to go, and he worded it perfect. It's just surreal when you're there, the scale of it.
yeah.
So,
I don't think you can get more different from.
but equally as fantastic experience. So,
Well, I grew up in Indianapolis. Never have been to the race, but every year we'd go to qualifying, and it was just something I looked forward to very much. But you said anything goes in Monaco. No, really, anything goes in Indianapolis, and it is. I bet there's no snake pit at Monaco, right? Have you heard of the snake pit at the Indy 5? So it's basically where
it's
all the
it's probably
hillbillies go to party, and yeah.
it's probably a
There's,
different kind of snake pit. So
that's
yeah,
that's right. There's one
Snakeskin
nice restaurant.
handbag pit.
yeah.
There's one nice restaurant in Indianapolis. It's called the St. Elmo Steakhouse, and that's the one place you go to see or be seen, have a good meal, whatever. But other than that, it is the most low key event. But it is. But to your point, it is iconic, right? It's the scale. It is. it's the down home goodness of it all, right? For years they
Yeah.
had Jim Neighbors who would sing the national anthem. It is it's yeah, I can't imagine a more different event, having not been to Monaco, but definitely bucket list and maybe a little more accessible. So maybe we start there,
Yeah,
gentlemen.
and don't worry, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not living that lifestyle. I came back and had to pull my bins in from the curb. So life just got very real this morning when I had to get up and go to work. So
Well, you're the only one on this call that's actually worked on an F1 team. So, I mean, you
yeah,
probably, when you're witnessing decisions being made, you're an engineer, right? We're an engineer on the Mercedes F1 team, on the McLaren
yeah,
F1 team.
yeah, on both. Yeah,
So when you see them, when you disagree with choices they're making, right, like tire selection or chassis setup or whatever, I mean, you actually know what you're doing.
there's so many things that go into it though, isn't there?
Yeah,
Unless you know all the data that's feeding into sector times and split times, like
yeah,
you think you know what's going on, but you don't really. Like I maybe big myself up that I think I know, but yeah, there are much smarter people with a lot more information that get it wrong. So I
sure.
don't know anything, this side of the TV. So
Yeah. What an experience. I mean, amazing. I can't wait to see your pictures, and no, it's definitely something for us to shoot for.
is
I,
you
I,
it it's hard. How much do you post? It's going
yeah.
on, and people are like, yeah, he's still talking about Monaco. Go away. So
I think this is one of those things. It's okay. It's okay. The people watching must have just been insane.
yeah, it's endless.
Yeah.
You just we were lucky. We sat in the grandstand opposite the pit lane, so you could see all the celebs that do the walking back and forth. And I think it shows you I'm getting older. I didn't know. I had to Google who half of them were.
Yeah.
Um, but there was all walks of life there, which is
Yeah.
really good. So
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Dan, you didn't go to Monaco, but you took a pretty interesting road trip recently. I don't know, we should probably baseline this, like what we all drive, right? Like I
Well,
know
as long as it's
Alan.
not top trumps, because you boys would just kick my butt.
no, I think you have very interesting stuff, and you have
That's
access to
it.
a lot of interesting stuff as well. So now they all, I think, cut their own path in the car community. So
Well, I've talked about this before. I again Sunday or yesterday, Monday, went out for a drive with a couple guys in new 992s, and I just cannot keep up in my GT4. So I don't know. I may have to upgrade at some point, Alan. Join the
well,
Cool
we're going
Kids
to have to
Club.
come back to this a little bit as well
Yeah.
because I was really happy until today.
Okay. All right. I want to come back to that. But
Yeah,
Dan, you've got a Corolla GR, which is kind of like the it car of the moment.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
that's my weekend toy, and I managed to secure it new. And there's a long waiting list. People have been waiting for 2 years plus to get
Yeah.
hold of these things. I managed to jump that list a little bit by paying a little bit more.
We weren't sure it was actually going to happen. Do you remember
Right.
this
There's
journey?
a whole
It
saga
was
there
almost too good to
where
be true, but yet you've got a car now.
you hand over your credit card details and they don't take a transaction, and you think, well, actually, am I going to get this car? But it duly turned up on the 1st of April. So, it was an April Fool's, but it arrived. And the big thing with those engines, so it's obviously a 300 horsepower, three-cylinder engine, and they want you to kind of wear it in. So it's similar to modern M cars and obviously Porsches, where you need to hit a certain amount of mileage before you're actually allowed to kind of give it the beans, as we say. So for me, this is a weekend car, so driving it during the week wasn't really an option. So I had to get to just shy of 700 miles, which equates to 1,000 kilometers. That's how they work it out. So short trips to go get groceries and stuff just didn't
Yeah.
cut it. So I decided to take it on a bit of a road trip. And
Can I interrupt? Sorry. So Alan
Yeah,
is
yeah.
an engineer. When we hear these break-in periods, right? 700 miles on the Corolla, Porsche, it's 1,000 or 1,500. That's legit, right? Like they're not just, there was always this conspiracy theory, like Porsche just doesn't want you to go out and just give it everything like on day one and end up in a ditch, right? Like, but there's a real reason for this, right? This is mechanical break-in is a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. When things are made, they're obviously are built on different tolerances. So they try and get it so that it has a wear-in period, so it seals itself. Everything sort of starts to bed in. with the surrounding parts, and then it's good to go, for a predicted amount of life. Sometimes it's hardening, sometimes it's just getting to the optimum wear point and tolerance before you start to give it a high load or high input. So yeah, it's a real thing. But I did hear once that one of the GM engine sign-offs is from cold, start an engine, rev it flat out for 4 minutes, and then turn it off. And you think, I'd cry if I saw an engine do that. The mechanical sympathy or empathy, so I think cars are probably more robust than nowadays than from most manufacturers than we think. But I still am waiting. I'm doing that 1,000-kilometer thing until I can do my first launch. I was like, I want to do a launch. So don't worry, it'll be on Instagram. It'll be the blah, 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 blah. So,
well, we all hold so closely to that. Like, it's not like 999 miles or whatever kilometers is going to be, right, a switch flips or something. But anyway, so back to you, Dan. Sorry, I just wanted to establish that this was a real thing that we should be doing, and there was a reason for this. And
so 500 miles of careful driving. And then I decided to go on this road trip. So 621 was the magic number to get to 621 miles. And then, like before that, it's frustrating because you can't go over 4,000 revs. And it's, it feels like you're driving half the car. So decided to do this road trip. It was in total 600 miles over 2.5 days. Started by going north from Seattle, but then took a right turn and went through the mountains. So we're really lucky up here. We've got 3 passes that go through the mountains, and all 3 of them have got amazing drives. But I was midway through this drive to a place called Diablo Lake. So you imagine altitude, turns, and I hit this magic number, and that was it, right? Big smile, let's go for it. And there was nothing around. It was a Thursday. So yeah, after the weekend, I'd managed to completely bed the car in. I managed to find this one road that was amazing pavement. It was a continuous set of hairpins, and it was driving up at altitude. So we started at river level and drove it up. I'm going to maybe charge to let people know where that road is because it is magical. I don't want people to spoil it. But it was a great road trip. I really got to become one with the car. I love it. It's I'm calling it a tarmac dancer because it just flies around the tarmac and just they just handle so well. So, I'm in love with the choice. Glad Amazing. I bought it and glad I got through to the mileage that I needed to get to.
So just give me a visual of Elton John. Sorry,
tarmac dancer. We should remix that. Yeah.
Alan, go ahead. I'm sorry, I talked over you.
No, so you think it's got like the perfect balance and good brake feel, good power, sort of curve to feed in just when you need it.
I think you need to drive it being the chassis expert, right? In terms of, but you can change the bias. So I have a little dial and I can go from 50-50, 60-40 or 30-70. So depending on what sort of experience I want in the car, I can change it. So obviously if you go 30-70, the bias is at the back, so you're more likely to get the back end out and stuff. But it was just cool playing with that. The revs... The 0 to 60 time is misleading on this car because you have to get to third gear to get to 60.
Oh, wow.
But, it's one of these cars where it's just all about playing with that gearbox. It's all about, getting it to the premium revs, changing gear at the right time. It's just a fun toy, and that's what I wanted.
Fantastic.
It's such a cool car. And I have to laugh because the GT4, the hit against the GT4, it's the long gears. And I think you can damn near do 60 in first gear. I like to shift, right? Like those minis too. It's like it was kind of the same. Where I feel like I'm actually shifting the car again, right? It's such an interesting car, that GR, because you're working with it's a 3-cylinder, which is really unusual. Is it twin turbo?
I don't know, actually. Good question.
Not to put you on the spot.
It's definitely got a turbo because it makes so many hissing noises at me. Which is
I'm wondering if it's just one big turbo. Honestly, well, we'll have to check that. But you've got the dial for the the chassis, the balance and everything. I mean, it's a pretty special car. It's really it's been talked about like it's the Lancia Delta Integrale, right? Of kind of like our generation, and I think it probably is. I mean, it has that specialness.
It's a rare breed for sure. Yeah, I mean,
maybe not the racing pedigree quite yet, but it's
is the
you
key
kind
point.
of feel like it's an inevitable thing, though, don't you? Like everything just seems to look good on the car, and It
Yeah.
just seems to have all the makings, the ingredients to just be epic. So you hope it's run by a good team, got the right drivers, and I think it's just going to be, it's going to be a memorable car for years to come. I think great
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, when motoring journalists buy the same car as you, and I'm talking about
Mm.
Lieberman, you kind of think he knows something, right? So who
He's got
knows?
that in a Rivian, right?
Wow.
Yeah, well, everyone has a problem in their life, so everyone's got a bad. No, I don't say that. I don't mean that at all.
No.
It's definitely two-car solution, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you've got
It's
both
a
there.
great,
So
great two-car solution. You cross-shopped some other stuff too, like the Civic Type R, and
Yeah,
ended up on this. So
so when this car was mythical and to the point where I didn't know whether it actually existed or not, I kind of went and got a backup plan, and the backup plan was the Civic Type R. And in all intents and purposes, the Civic Type R is probably a better car. It's probably mechanically better. It's probably got a better gearbox change. It's probably more like your car, Ryan, in terms of the gearbox. But it was too serious for me. I didn't want something. I wanted something that was a bit of a hooligan, something that was just fun and doesn't take itself too seriously. And that Civic Type R is clinical. It's almost German. If the Japanese had been on holiday to Germany and come back, that's what the car they produce. So it's a great car, but it just wasn't for me.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you've got a pretty nice daily driver too in an SQ5, so you've kind of got that box checked, right? The civilized,
I'm a lucky
daily
boy,
driver.
but what I don't have is a Targa 911.
So now, yeah. So what happened? This car was the alpha and the omega, and there can't be something wrong with it.
oh
It's
no,
perfect.
it still is a dream car. In fact, I couldn't wait to get home and hop in it and go for a drive
Yeah.
again. So I absolutely sad as it is, I missed it, and it's just as soon as you hop in and you start it, it's like I'm back.
Yeah.
It's perfect. But obviously, the 992.2 was unveiled today. So and
Yeah,
you go,
that's on my list to talk about.
but it's one of those things where you think, okay, at various points when models have had an interesting change in technology introduction, you think, well, am I gonna have, the turkey, or am I gonna, have the pot of gold for the
I
future? And
I think it's pot of gold. I really do. It was one of the reasons I bought the NA, the GT4, right? I mean, I think, it's a good thing. I think people are going to look back and think of, oh, yeah, that was when they were still good, right? Before they went hybrid. And isn't it just the GTS that's going hybrid, or is that just a for now thing?
good question. It says for now, and they have
Yeah.
pumped a lot of other freebies into it to
Yeah.
sweeten up the offering, I think, because reviews so far have been pretty mixed. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
online, obviously the purists are saying what they're saying, but the way they've gone about it, I think, is really interesting. It's a turbo hybrid, so you get all the good things of a turbo without the bad bits. You get the good
Right.
things of a hybrid without the bad bits, like the mass and all the other complexity. So it's, for me, from an engineering perspective, I think it's just a really clever setup.
Yeah.
And looking at the promo video, when they did the drag race with Mark Webber in the 992.1, it's phenomenal speed delta, but is that real? I don't think they're gonna stiff us on the good data, but yeah, I've definitely already put a call in today to test drive one next month. So
Nice.
You got the sickness. It's interesting because the 992.1, I believe all models share the 3.0 motor, right? And really the only difference is the size of the turbos and
Yeah.
the tuning. This is a 3.6. Is that right? The new one?
didn't see that.
Maybe I'm
But,
wrong about that.
That's quite a leap, isn't it?
It is, and it's also like
it-
541 horsepower.
It's like 50 brake horsepower more or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
So
check
that's not gonna
check
come
the
just
engine
from
size. I could be.
hybrid.
What's that?
That's not going to come just from a little
No,
hybrid system.
no,
So there's
no.
definitely more going on.
But you're also, you get a few options. That's a $200,000 car too, which is, I mean, I guess it was pretty close to the point it went anyway. But that's a lot of money, And I was shocked though. I've now driven with friends in 992s a few times, and especially here at altitude, they just leave me in the dust in a straight line. I can kind of catch up in the turns, but my buddy Colin just picked up his new GTS, his GT Silver car, and we pulled onto the highway, same time, same speed, and it just left me like I wasn't even there. I cannot imagine. You're saying the hybrid's that much quicker, the speed delta is that much greater. That's supercar territory, is it not? And what's the turbo going to be like? What's the Turbo S going to be like? It's just
exactly as Clarkson said. It's a super car, not a supercar. And you think, well, what point does it become a supercar? That is, it's got active aero on the front as well now. So there's, what else can they do to put it in that league? And I was watching. Going back to Monaco, they had the Porsche Super Cup there as well, and it sounded so sweet in the stadium there, in the sort of grandstand, hearing these raspy cars, flat out, and they're big cars, obviously on small circuit. And British driver Harry King got second, and so we'll try and reach out to him and see if we can get him on the show as well.
Fantastic.
To get his experiences, because you got to sort of put him in the bracket of probably one of the world's fastest 911 drivers, and to do that guilt-free, police-free around Monaco. It's what a dream. So
incredible. I heard a rumor, Porsche rumor. You said, what are they going to do with the turbo from here? I have heard some talk through some local friends in the Porsche enthusiast community that there's some talk about a 7-speed manual coming back to the turbo. So Turbo S would stay PDK, but we now have the ST, right? We have a box that can handle the power. I think it's a viable. I think there might be some legs to this. Any thoughts? Does that make the turbo?
Agree that just from a marketing and sales perspective, it'll be a tick tick tick. I think it's fulfilling everyone's dreams. Now they have a gearbox that can, be comfortable in the warranty, under the horsepower. I think it'd be a great experience.
But I wonder, to do it on. Are they eating their own lunch there though? Because it's eating into the Sports Classic, which was a turbo with a manual gearbox.
Hard to say. They're going to sell every one of them. I think it'll affect the aftermarket, right? Like the pre-owned, right, market more than anything. And interestingly, so was it the ST or the Sport Classic, the rear-wheel drive turbo?
The Sport Classic.
The Sport Classic. Okay, so they had, I think, to curb the power in the first couple of gears, right, to handle. But but that's because it's rear-wheel drive. And the all-wheel drive car, Alan, you tell us as the engineer, but you, in theory, wouldn't have to do that, right? So you could have full power. You'd have the traction.
I suspect it would lay it down, lay all that power down now. So
yeah. Oh man, I can't imagine what an experience that would be. It's just, man, that's, how much is too much? Just too much, but
apparently I don't know. Someone said on a podcast today, it's about 750 horsepower is too much.
That's too much. So, okay.
Yeah, apparently, So
it's never enough. That's the problem. That's the problem. You just took delivery. That's right. Yeah. I spent a little time with our pal Tom Horan from the Colorado Grand, a longtime sharer. He just took delivery of a new T992, so it's kind of interesting to see that next to the GTS. He's got the sport exhaust and everything, so they're visually pretty much the same car, other than the center lock wheels on the GTS. We have another local friend who, shout out Chris, who's got the GTS and opted to get the 5-lug wheels instead of the center locks, which I thought was a pragmatic decision. But even that T, it's a very quick car, beautiful car. I see why you like your car. I think for me, I would get the Targa. I really especially here in Colorado, it just checks off all the boxes. There's just such great cars. They really do feel like a generation ahead of, like what I've got, or a 991. So
I think the T is it's a really nice spec as well, isn't it? A nice concept. Yeah. You're getting all the sport and some comfort with it as well. I have slightly less sport, but I get the roof function as well. So you can't fault either.
Tom had a GT3 Touring, a beautiful what was the color? I think it was Mirblau, the Zwart color, right, on his GT3 Touring. It was one of the prettiest Porsches I've ever seen, and he said the same thing. It's like, it's a great car, but it is definitely a little comfier, right? A little more practical, but anyway, I just think the 992 will go down as one of the great 911s. So anyway, Dan, we just got our media passes, or found out we're getting media passes. Us, Lindsay, I'm sure we can get one for you, Alan, but for the Pikes Peak hill climb, or as they like us to call it, the Broadmoor Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, brought to you by Gran Turismo. So there's that. So thank you, Lisa and the team. We're very excited to go. I think we need to record an episode here if we could. Alan, we'll dial you up. Dan, Lindsay will be in the studio here in the garage, and I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about post Pikes Peak. So anyway, but glad to know that that's official.
I'm super jealous, but I've now got tickets to Silverstone, so I'm going to continue the Formula One experience and go sit in the grandstands. No hospitality yet, but I'll work on that one. And 3 days, so yeah.
You're a famous automotive podcaster now, on top of everything else. So I mean, if you can't leverage that, I don't know who can. So.
Yeah, if any one of our 10 listeners knows of anyone, let me know. So I'd be grateful. So.
Who else has something to talk about? I think I've asked all my questions. The hybrid I'd like to drive. I might need to set up a 992 test drive. So John, Justin, if you're listening, let's make that happen. Then I'll be even more disappointed in my GT4 and its acceleration. But yeah, I don't know. It's been beautiful weather here in Denver. There are a million things going on. Calendar is definitely filling up. Car Week, just talked to some folks from the Morgan Adams Concours here. That'll happen the week after Car Week. And then 2 weeks later, I think, is the Grand. So it's going to be a very, very busy late summer here in Denver. Sounds, Alan, like your calendar is filling up. Dan, I know you're doing something every weekend. So
the summer of car events, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got Pikes Peak, which I'm excited for. I then get on a plane and go to Goodwood.
Fantastic.
Goodwood as well. Yep.
I'm looking for you to see whether we can do something with McLaren or who knows, but I'll be over for Goodwood.
This is Festival of Speed?
The Festival of Speed, yeah. So the early summer event versus the latter. And then I've got some superbike racing. And then I meet you both in Monterey for Car Week. So it's going to be a packed summer.
It's not a bad life, is it?
No, it really isn't, right? I have this saying, would my 12-year-old self be proud? And whenever I do these things, I think my 12-year-old self would pinch me. This is a pretty good life, right?
And then at the end of the year, we all get one house because we're all going to be divorced, and we'll move in together. So
I won't be able to afford the house, but it's.
We'll be in a van. We'll be in Dan's Sprinter van. So
there we go.
It's probably still for sale. It's probably still in that lot, Dan, have you checked?
It's probably not
me. Coming down. So.
Yeah. Well, we should probably wrap this up, but we look forward to having Lindsay on again soon.
Go well, Lindsay.
Yeah. I look forward to getting some more shows here and posting these and riding this wave. So I've got nothing else. So I'll say goodbye. I'm Ryan in Denver.
I'm Alan in England.
And Dan in Seattle.
Till next time, we're the Road Show.
Bye.
Bye.